Hello and welcome to Connections. I'm Richard Haynes. Thanks for joining us on today's show. As you can see, we are at Darley, but Darley Osborne Park. This is a very important training facility for Darley in the northwest of Sydney. Let's go inside and catch up with head trainer Peter Snowden and managing director Henry Plumtree. Well, Henry, Osborne Park, fantastic property. Can we go back a few steps, maybe a couple of years? How did this great property come into being, into your ownership, and you've seen the development come through from the start?
We ran a very small racing string before Woodlands. We didn't have any great plans for running any more than about 30 or 40 horses. When Sheikh Mohammed decided to buy Woodlands, that was a quantum leap from where we were in terms of facilities and infrastructure to a major investment on any scale, whether it be equine or anything else. So I think we view the racing component of our company now of critical importance in terms of upholding the values of our stock and our horses, which is our core asset. And in order to enhance that, Ollie was here at the time as MD, and he was talking to Peter and said, what would make it, what would give you an edge with these horses, Peter? And Peter suggested that he'd love a country training centre where he could, principally we first thought that it would be a 2-year-old centre where we could get 2-year-olds up and running, barrier trial them here and get them ready for racing. But I think Peter had a view that there were other horses in the system at Warwick Farm and at Flemington that would benefit from having sometimes only 2 or 3 days at a facility like this, and sometimes in the case of fillies we have them out here for 2 or 3 weeks and they remain in work. He thought that would give him an edge. We were approached by a couple of agents who knew that this place was on the market, and Bob Rutley owned it, and we basically went from there. And we were lucky because it was pretty much a blank canvas when we bought it, and we put the plans in and we built it in about 9 months.
Well, Peter, when we get to the front gates of Osborne Park, there's only one word we can say. It is wow, what a phenomenal training facility.
Absolutely, Richard. You know, just where you're coming from, because it's the same for me. You know, I've been out here 3 or 4 times a week, but that's the sort of feel it gives me, and I'm sure our horses get that same sort of feel. It's just tremendous.
A lot of planning goes into a property like this. It just doesn't happen overnight. Yourself and the Darley team obviously well involved in making this property just the way you want it. Yeah,
gee, it was probably the most pleasing for me is just to see how it's come out. And you're right, we had a lot of round table discussions about it when we were putting it down, and we had some good expertise from some very good people, and the end result is, as you can see, I couldn't wish for anything better. It's just amazing. Everything we needed is here, and it's just from day one it's just performed at the highest level.
There's no doubt that Warwick Farm is the main base, but you can't sell this short. I mean, there probably isn't much between the 2 bases. They're both as important as each other. Yeah,
absolutely. I said the other day, this offers us something else, especially with fillies or horses that don't do well in the stable. But also you do need the hustle bustle of the inner city tracks, because they do get a bit complacent out here, especially young horses who don't get used to that hustle bustle and the grind of a lot of horses around them. They tend to sort of get a bit freak out the first day they get to a trial or something like that. I've done it before with them, and really marrying them both up. As yearlings, we put them in the first preps in town, the second preps out here, the third's in town, and the fourth's out here, so they're getting a bit of both. But doing that, I think you get the best of both worlds, and it's working quite well.
Does any particular horse suit out here? What's the kind of horse in your eyes that you might say to the team and say, you know what, this horse might be better placed out at Agnes Banks for a while? Yeah,
I think the fillies. I think the 4 or 5-year-old fillies, we don't have too many. Most of the fillies go to stud at late 3, early 4, but there's a few in mind. Click's filly won the other day. She'd had a stint in Melbourne and at Warwick Farm. Just a 2-week freshen up out here in this environment, she won straight away. Now that might not have been the whole reason why she won, but certainly looking at the horse, I've seen a big difference in her in 2 weeks out here to what I've seen in town. So things like that you know, we alluded to it earlier, just to come out here and just get that presence, that ease, that stress goes out of the system. She was eating better out here, she was a happier horse, and she raced better.
It's got all the attributes of a country training centre because it's peaceful. Peter, I think, has realised the worth of having somewhere where you can actually watch your horses work in the daylight. Most metropolitan trainers have that problem of having to work horses in the dark most of the time, so the stable routine becomes the critical factor there, whereas if you're watching them working in an environment like this, you can watch them from start to finish, from the moment they walk out of their box to the moment they walk back to their box, you know.
We kick off about 6:30, and the first load is normally, I come out Monday, Wednesday, Friday for fast work, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays in at Warwick Farm, but it works well. The boys do a couple of slow trips before I get out here, and by the time we get here at 6:30, the first lot are ready to go, the fast lots, and we normally have about 6 or 7 depending on what day of the week it is. But it's systematically worked, and I see every horse. They come out in lots of 5 and 6, so you can see them all working individually. That's important, and in daylight we can see them work, see how they recover, and that's a big thing. But we've got a great team of staff out here, and it's working really well.
And the horses that they work, and what's their process after they work? Are they back to the stables, or are there day yards they can go into as well?
Yeah, well, there again we're selective what we do with them. As you can see down beneath us there, we've got some day yards and day paddocks, and the colts normally go on the day yards. Depends on if they're big gross horses, they don't put them out, but if they're horses or geldings have had a bit of racing and they're getting a bit, same thing, they're getting a bit sour, they'll work about 9. They'll be iced up, brushed up, checked with the vet, farrow, check their shoes, and they'll go down the paddocks about 10, and they'll come back up about 2, and it works really well because that downtime they have, they really enjoy it. They have a pick, they have a good look around, they eat a bit of their feed, they just chill out. And by 2 o'clock when the staff go down to get them, 9 out of 10 are at the gate waiting to come back in, so they've had their bit of downtime. And
a great training track here. Again, the training tracks you guys have developed, the Darley team, and can you give us an idea about the training tracks and how they were developed and how good they are for you?
Yeah, like when we first got here, there was a grass track here, a dirt profile grass track and a pro ride and a sand. We kept the sand and the pro ride, which are both great tracks. The grass track, we turned that into, it was very patchy, it was hard and firm and soft, had a lot of clay underneath it, so we ripped it up. We're up there whether to put a strath air down or a normal grass turf track down, sand and turf. But Henry elected on the strath air, which I was a bit dubious of. We'd had one at Kenzo, as we knew when it first kicked off. It was our first one there. It had a few problems, but I've got to say what I seen get put down here, which raised a few eyebrows when the profile was going down. It's quite a lot of sand in it, but see this track now, how it's performed in the last 12 months has just been outstanding. It doesn't matter how much rain we get, we can always work on it. We've galloped on this track 4 inches after 4 inches of rain during the night, and it doesn't. At the worst I've ever seen it slow. It's got terrific drainage. In the summertime, the tracks to be mowed 2 and 3 times a week. It just goes fever pitch. It's very thick, lush grass.
But he's bought his A game today, Sepoy. He's going to absolutely blitz them, and Sepoy wins the slipper from Mosheen and Elite Falls.
Can you remember racing in Sydney being as competitive as it is now?
It's really hard. Once I thought we had an edge. That edge is now blunt, but look, we're in a position where we can really strike back with our young brigade, and hopefully this year we've got 2 new stallions popping up, a new approach and Street Cry. Street Cry is not new, but new for us in a way that we're supporting this year, and we put a lot of precocious mares to him, so we're out there looking for a really good sprinting 2-year-old, and I'm quietly confident we'll get one. Time will tell, but I'm really happy the way the 2-year-olds come through so far. And
always nice to have a nice lawn row or 2 poking around.
Yeah, gee, hasn't he been a godsend? He's been so good to us. He's had a tremendous year this year and last. Piero, the leading 2-year-old of the year last season, and no, he's been a great investment for us.
Are you happy with where Darley is placed in the Australian racing and breeding landscape? Are you where you want to be?
I think we tread a fine line on the breeding landscape of being viewed as too big and therefore a bit oppressive. And the other side of the fine line is not actually providing the right sort of service or the right stallion lineup for our clients. I'm a very big believer, as was Ollie, that relationships are the thing that keep our breeding operation going. Relationships with our bigger clients, but also relationships with our 2 to 3 mare a year people. It's paramount importance to a big operation like us for those relationships to be long-term and viewed as long-term, so that if Richard Haynes, for example, has trouble in a couple of years of bad yearling cells and comes to us and says, I want to use your Australians, but I'm in a bit of trouble now, can you help me out with nominations? We like to do that. We like to look after people who look after us, which is part of the rationale for buying yearlings in the sale ring. To top up our 2-year-old crop every year, we buy yearlings from breeders who support us.
What does Sheikh Mohammed have in mind and the Darley team for the future?
Well, if I could say first of all, we reached a plateau in about 2008, 2009 where we needed to enter a period of consolidation. We had spent a lot of money developing the properties that we have around Australia, and we'd spent a lot of money putting in the infrastructure and human infrastructure that we needed to run the operations. So we needed to level off, and I think we spent 8 years of brand building, which I think it's established the brand now, and hopefully what people are thinking when they look at those maroon and white colours, they're not just thinking of Darley winning another race or running well in another race, they're also thinking of Sheikh Mohammed in Dubai. Crystal ball gazing would look at it and say, well, you haven't been overly successful thus far. I disagree with that. I think some of the horses that we sent last year have achieved exactly what they were sent for. Soul, Dysphonia, Scarf, and prior to that Retrieve is another horse that's done very well over there. The 2 big colts, they were disappointing both in Dubai and Europe, but we gave them very tough years last year. 2 very, very long preparations at elite level, and maybe that was what was the tipping point for them. But it is a goal of ours, because quality horses in the Godolphin string are what really really make Sheikh Mohammed happy and keep him engaged.